Greetings, I'm Unoriginal MR2. If you're watching this video and you are not a member of the task force, you...
Get out! You don't belong here!
As I was saying, you won't know anything about what the hell we will be talking about. We're a semi-private role-playing community on Discord. So yeah, if you are a member of the task force, you probably know how these icebergs work. As you go down the iceberg, the more obscure and cursed the lines of text are. However, unlike the Mario 64 iceberg, nearly 100% of everything on the iceberg is true. Me, Dragon, and Accel will be reading the red lines of text on the layers, indicated by these three colors of the task force logo in the corner. Without further ado, let's get started.
Task Force Hub. Starting from the tip of the iceberg, actually a bit above the berg itself, we've got the Task Force Hub. This is one of the most iconic parts of the Task Force community, as it's the main server where discussion about and within the community takes place. It hardly ever hosts its own roleplays, however. They're almost always exported to separate servers due to the infinite amount of channels that the hub would have to contain if every roleplay took place directly in-house.
Task News. Task News is a satirical news show created by Unoriginal MR2. It focuses on reported events that have happened in the task force. The first episode debuted on December 16, 2019, and episodes have been released weekly since. Ram Ranch and Two Trucks. Ram Ranch by Grant McDonald and Two Trucks by Lemon Demon are two meme songs about sex. They are well known in the task force due to Unoriginal MR2 posting about the two songs in late 2019 and early 2020.
Justin Warwick was supposed to die in ASARP. In Accel and Sylvet's Acceleracers RP, the character played by Trub, Justin Warwick, was originally not meant to survive throughout the entire server's run. Originally, due to the lack of any cushioning after being sent back into the Acceldrome by the emergency driver return during the Water Realm, Justin would have succumbed to a combination of lung cancer due to chronic smoking, as well as complications caused by internal bleeding. This was backed up by his intended final vehicle being named Mercy Breaker. Due to the controversial reaction to his death, how sudden and unnatural it seemed, and due to the fact that everybody seemed to enjoy Justin's character, the turn of events was modified to ensure Justin's survival. Thomas Schmidt, the character intended to replace Justin's afterwards, did still appear later on, but was unaffiliated with either racing team endorsed by Dr. Tesla.
Lily is Sammy's alt. It is heavily theorized by members such as Beezy, Sylvet, and Kaz that Lily, Sammy's sister, is actually an alt. The evidence for this includes Lily's generic female personality, the details on Lily's age and appearance fluctuating, and the fact that they sometimes type on each other's accounts, playing it off as if they were putting words into each other's mouths. There happens to be an image of this occurrence as seen here. Sammy has not yet commented on this theory.
Dragon and Vin in Task News. DragonZX and VinBig99 have both guest starred in episodes of Task News, with Vin appearing in Task News 2 and Dragon in Task News 12. In addition, there was also build-up to Dragon's inclusion in Task News 7, as shown in the dream sequence skit in that episode.
Task humor. Task humor is sort of difficult to explain. It's basically a torrent of inside jokes, 21st century humor, and everyone acting like they're sleep deprived in the middle of the afternoon. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say. What's that music? Oh, no. No, 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 no! Kaz is always someone's love interest in ACCR. When it comes to Acceleracers roleplays, Kaz's character seems to always have a love interest. In Waterrun, it was KC, while in Afterburn, it could be debated to either be Brendan or Angelo. And that's it. That's all of the RPs. Huh.
September 1st is cursed. September 1st has always been considered as a cursed date in the TASCforce. It started in 2018 when a session for Silhouette's Pokemon New Horizon took place. Recon Squad Blink had summoned Jirachi, a mythical Pokemon that could grant wishes. Mercs' character, Mike Jones, wished for quote-unquote powers. Iridian and Vading, who were talking in the voice chat, noticed that Mercs didn't specify which kind of powers he wanted. This resulted in Mercs turning into a magical girl. This event was quickly undone. However, it became both infamous and kept under wraps due to how questionable it was and how it could affect Mercs' reputation. September 1st became nothing more than a footnote until September 1st, 2019, when its status as a cursed date solidified, when in Silhouette's Everyone Is Here V7, David Pliskin, my character, drove a Halo Warthog right into a medieval fantasy village and wreaked havoc on the town. This event was more widely known as it wasn't retconned. The event arguably hurt my reputation in the TASCforce for a few months, unlike Mercs'. As I did this all on my own, who knows what this year's September 1st will have in store for us.
Afterburn was kept secret at first. Kaz's ongoing Accel Racers roleplay, Operation Afterburn, began its life on April 5th, 2020 as a spiritual successor to the failed Operation Waterrun, hosted by Concord, Unoriginal MR2, and later Shay that past winter. However, at that point in time, there were too many new roleplays running to possibly consider the concept of a new one, especially Accel Racers, which had been done many times before. As such, it was in my DMs that most of the early conceptualization for Operation Afterburn was done. However, this secretive nature was also a double-edged sword, because even though the RP went under the radar, it also meant that when it finally started in the summer of 2020, it caused schedule conflictions with my Battle Force 5 RP, Silhouette's Burning Horizon, and Concord's Fire Emblem Fallen Legacy. However, despite this, the majority of these RP are still up and running, and let's hope it stays that way. Silhouette keeps gender bending Adam Carter. SRBS, this trend. How I wish this trend wasn't a thing. In a ploy to attempt to get me to branch out with my characters multiple times throughout the Horizonverse, starting with the first role-playing New Horizon, that server's iteration of Adam Carter was made female through a plethora of means, approximately thrice based on whatever was plot convenient, and once he got access to reincarnating in different bodies in the indirect sequel, Fantasy, Silhouette used that as a crutch in order to keep Adam in said state for an extended period of time. Less of a conspiracy theory and more of a, yeah, he did this, it's commonly known fact, which is why this is high up. Horizonverse Adam is generally the exception, not the rule. However, even outside of Horizonverse, Silhouette seems to not inflict the Rule 63 card on anyone but his own characters or myself. Hey, on the bright side, at least Adam didn't age down. Right, Mercs?
Enser RP blog. During Enser RP, the first RP of the TASCforce, which was hosted in Enser's Roblox game server, Accel created a Weebly blog to document what happened in the RP. Due to the RP channel being suddenly deleted and no known screen caps being taken, it remains as the only source for the Enser RP.
Canyon Realm took 15 days and MMFC. Multiple factors went into the extension of a racing realm to last for 2 whole weeks, plus a day before the entire Monkeyman fan club roleplay was cancelled. During the first run of the Canyon Realm on July 1st, enough progress was made to get approximately halfway through the realm. However, Vin, who was planned to win the realm as a bribe to get him to continue to participating, seemed very unresponsive and slow to the point where, at his worst, he took an hour to reply to a very simple post. When questioned, he answered that he wanted to watch Spider-Man Homecoming instead. After 6 hours of consecutive role-playing and insufficient progress was made, Accel called the session off for the day. The next day, the game Toontown Corporate Clash dropped, which left Vin busy playing it for the next 2 weeks due to him calling it more important, which led to Accel eventually killing it off after what it was in limbo for such a long time.
Runes Realm Crisis. One of the earliest and most publicly known incidents within TASCforce history, the Runes Realm Crisis occurred in the second Accel Racers RP in the TASCforce's history, TARP, hosted by Trub. The event occurred in the aforementioned Runes Realm and consisted of an argument over whether Taki Ide, the character played by Concord, or one of the NPC enemy drivers from the Silencers, should have won. much evidence was stacked up on both sides. In favor of the silencers, there is the fact that realm victories were stated to stay canon until after the rune's realm multiple times before, as well as the fact that Taki's reverb vehicle only won due to breaking the 300 miles per hour barrier, going 23 miles per hour faster actually, in a vehicle that was previously a Junker Selene S7 twin turbo, not for commercial sale, which just so happened to be found, with the keys and fully fueled in the prior racing realm. In Concord's favor, however, his victory was endorsed by the server owner, even if it was kept a secret. It was downright restrictive to limit the victories each team could have until the last 10 races due to the canon established by the movies, and that said rule had been broken before by Vincent Awar's victory in the Cliffside realm. Sides were quickly taken, and Concord as well as Vlyox threatened to leave the server if they were not granted official victory, leading to the Runes realm with Celaturn being awarded to Taki. However, even 3 years later, the event is widely regarded as one of the most heated controversies in the TASCforce, and people still have staid views on it today, so I hope my explanation wasn't too bias-laden.
Cyrus' father is named Dregden. In Accel's car race continuity, Sylvet's character, Cyrus Washington, had a father that was only referred to as Mr. Washington, which in turn caused people to joke about how his father was George Washington, until on November 11th of 2019, when in the Highway 35 server, Sylvet had an AMA, where Accel asked what Cyrus' father's first name was. Sylvet revealed that his first name was Dregden, and yeah. Dregden. What a stupid name. Oh, we're still rolling? Dash.
Copy did the wiki raid. Within the first few months of the TASCforce being officially branded as such, there were pushes to use Fandom's Wikia software as an informative archiving tool to keep track of the events of each RP, their characters, as well as the members behind them. During July 2019, on a day where I was sick, taking a nap, and unable to moderate whatsoever, the TASCforce was raided on two fronts. First of all, 2 duplicate SRBS accounts would join the server to individually spam ping everyone by, get this, pinging every person individually by their role, resulting in a grand total of 28 pings, maybe more, I can't remember, before the other 3 moderators were able to curb the attack. At the same time, every page on the TASCforce wiki was being vandalized with either petty insults, walls of swears, or individualized insults towards specific members. Accusations flew towards everyone, including Concord, Arcurus, Vading, and even Skycutter for editing the wiki during the raid in an attempt to revert the edits. The argument was eventually dropped, and it was widely assumed that Arcurus or Concord was behind the raid, despite the fact that Arcurus would have outright used the SRBS to raid, and that Concord would have used his bureaucrat rights on the wiki to delete it entirely if it were him. The mystery somehow went unsolved for months, until Copy Ninja was banned in addition to Katana, at which point he began using multiple alternative accounts which were clearly his on Twitter of all things, to shame the TASCforce by, get this, having a conversation with himself. Despite this, he denied these being his alts, and the denial tactics seem to be incredibly similar to those he used within the wiki raid. And by cross-referencing his behavior with the list of things the raider stated he knew on multiple vandalized pages, it was finally ruled that Copy Ninja must have been the man behind the raid.
Conference Realm became an entire RP continuity. On December 28th, 2018, I made a typo in High Octane where I said Conference Realm instead of Conference Room, because I'm stupid, of course, where it was then immediately given a realm symbol because, of course, it did. Around a month later, on January 20th, 2019, a server to host the conference realm was created. This server was kept private for a whole 4 days until I posted screenshots, and everyone was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's a conference server." And everyone was like, "Invite." And so, a whole bunch of people raced through the conference realm, where if either you died or EDR'd, you would be kicked out of the server. Shuvi won the realm, with Mike and Adam being the other 2 survivors of the realm. Later on, the server transformed into the Wheel of Destruction, my child, where 2 more realms took place. Then the Wheel of Destruction turned into a whole continuity, and now it exists.
I got to plug Twat. Let's go!
High Octane Cliffside Realm winner. Oh god. Do I have to explain this one with these 2 around? Alright, so in my Accelerators RP, High Octane, right at the end of 2018, we had another Runes Realm style situation. Except it was between two different players. David Pliskin, MR2's character, was on course to win the realm until Kyle Jackson, DragonZX's character, who was neck and neck, rolled higher than him with the dice, and was able to get into the portal first. For the next hour, I had to basically cancel MR2 because he left the server afterwards. The things were easily restored after a quick pep talk, and Kyle got the Accelercharger. Well, until the Kahoot did on New Year's, which had who won the Cliffside Realm in High Octane as a question, planting a seed for MR2 to accept an alternate reality where he won. For months afterwards, MR2 would vehemently only accept that he was the victor of the Cliffside Realm. However, as the months went by, this slowly became more so of an ironic source of joking argument between MR2 and Dragon, as opposed to the World War Cliffside that almost occurred during September of 2019. As of now, things have mostly died down with Kyle being accepted as a winner, and the dice generally being cut back on an Accelerators RPs. And RPs in general.
A fucking DragonZX loser over here. You know what? Fuck you, man. I won
Oh,
that
SRBS, oh no, what? Not again.
Hey, what do you think you're doing, Buckaroo? You can't just talk about that. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I can't talk about that.
You
I can't talk about, bro.
Oh, SRBS.
No,
Bro,
Yeah,
bro,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
using
yeah,
plate, bro.
No,
Bro, you
I won
bro, what are
Cliffside.
you
You
doing,
know
bro?
that. You
That's
can't
why
be
you
talking-
lost, bro.
You
Because
can't be talking
you
about
can't. MR2 and MR22 are in self-indulgence. In self-indulgence, two of the Guardians were parallels to the role-player Unoriginal MR2 and MR22. MR2 and MR22 hosted a radio show called Guardian News, which is a parody of MR2's Task News. In addition, MR2's depiction was also made as a parallel to the Guardian inspired by DragonZX, which appears throughout the Horizonverse. Since the Guardians of Self-Indulgence are controlled by Parallel Universe SRBS, very originally named RSBS. MR22, however, is a reference to an image which shows me as the popular humorous skeleton Sans from the video game Undertale.
EA HV7 and SI are part of the Horizonverse. The linear Horizonverse timeline in and of itself is vast, spanning 4 roleplays across 2 years, those being New Horizon, Fantasy, Burning Horizon, and Shattered Horizons. However, the franchise itself also has multiple peripheral roleplays, 2 of them being directly connected themselves. Everyone is Here V7 solidified itself in the same timeline due to the appearance of Astra Oceanheart, Arcturus' character, who attempted to introduce the concept of T-dolls from Girls Frontline. You may have seen MR2's review of that game during the Task Humor montage. Right. Tried introducing them into the RP. It didn't go too well, also tying in due to the session which involved the protagonist rescuing a member of their group from the fantasy world scene in Fantasy. Yes, same session that David drove the Warthog in. Self-indulgence is directly connected to EIHV7 due to both Adam Carters from that RP showing up, one being the main antagonist, nicknamed Wahoo due to his ability to build up enough speed to ascend to godhood, ironically enough, much like Mario and Mario 64, and another being one of the protagonists, nicknamed Archiver due to his multiversal knowledge. In addition, there technically is a third peripheral RP to the Horizonverse which ran concurrently with Fantasy, named Hub RP due to it being hosted in the TASCforce hub, which not only tied into Fantasy's plot, but included the Horizonverse timeline Pua Melia within its cast. However, it was not directly linked to the other 2 roleplays, and as such was left out of the bullet point on the Iceberg. Quite frankly, the Horizonverse, if I'm allowed to show a little bias here, is one of my favorite timelines in the TASCforce as a whole, simply because of how, interconnected it all is, despite how long it's taken.
TSRC's Splinter Timeline. Accel's USRC RP was never meant to have a sequel after it ended. However, TSRC was created as a sequel by Unoriginal MR2 without Accel's permission. It had characters from USRC return and was overall pretty bad. Concord then gave MR2 the great idea to make a Highway 35 RP that was a sequel to TSRC, which doesn't make sense because the Metal Maniacs appeared in USRC. What was even more confusing was that the actual Highway 35 movie exists in the RP, and then Concord thought it'd be a good idea to make Triple R take place in the same timeline as TSRC, resulting in a Splinter timeline. Pokemon Uranium RP. Accel made an experimental Pokemon RP named Nuclear, which is based off the Pokemon Uranium ROM hack. It was made to test the waters of roleplays that had a small group of people in it. For example, Nuclear only had 3 roleplayers participating, those being Accel, Mertz, and Concord.
Vin married Johnny. On December 23rd, 2019, Vin asked Jonah if he would marry him, and Jonah said yes. They had an alleged divorce about 6 months ago. Afterwards, where Jonah said he wasn't welcoming of a polyamorous relationship. And there are rumors that they might still be together. Why am I reading this?
Every version of Primal is their own character. Every TASCforce RP, unless specified otherwise, is in their own individual continuity in the TASCforce multiverse, much like how the Transformers franchise handles its own separate universes. However, every iteration of Concord's Primal character is the same person. They are all a quote-unquote universal singularity, aside from parallel versions of her.
Dell's arm. Probably one of the more iconic factors of the controversial roleplay Pokemon Celadon is the incredibly varied character arc of Silvet's character, Dalto Varco. It was the first real attempt at writing a character arc the community had. Yeah, we started fresh off the press, and it really showed. I mean, it had a pretty natural progression up until the end of Kanto, where it started to scribble all over the place, and the catalyst was a glitch in the Matrix. You see, I don't really know exactly what happened, but it had to do with Dell attempting to send out his Umbreon in an attempt to negate the effects of a Team Rocket device that stole Pokemon right out of their Pokeballs, which just caused the poor thing to glitch out of existence since it was sent out in the process of its data being transferred to the machine. I think that some residual glitch energy seeped out of the Pokeball and into Dell's arm because a couple days later he had this whole plot arc with his arm being replaced with an Umbreon's. It was super whack, it led to a ton of odd plot shenanigans because Concord's character was advocating to not stop it for whatever reason. Like, my man, he's clearly having his human genomes overridden. You don't want to let that run unchecked. 7th Reincarnation. Okay, so this one's another tricky one. This has to do with the Horizon vs. Adam Carter again, so I suppose that makes me the most qualified to talk about it. So, as I mentioned prior, later on, Adam got reincarnation access from God himself, a Flareon named SRBS, where he keeps his memories, mindset, but gets a new body. Kinda like Megatron to Galvatron if you need a reference, without the pact of loyalty. He got 11 of them to be specific, and a document from the Fantasy Server stated that the numbers 3 and 7 were cursed for him, quote-unquote. While the 3rd reincarnation was never documented in any way, shape, or form, there was a set of Google Slides meant to organize characters which, in addition to including information on all of SRBS's guardians and some of the main characters, also had a few of Adam's future reincarnations, including the 7th, therefore making it a lot more prominent than the 3rd. However, these slides are now unavailable for the public to access, so unless Adam dies a few more times than intended, there's no way to tell what the 7th reincarnation actually is. Who knows? Maybe he'd reincarnate as a funny mixer. Yeah, like Hobart. That'd make sense. Adam Carter Hobart. He's a funny mixer.
TFR's Tesla is fake. During an AMA with Trub on December 30th, 2019, he dropped a bombshell revealing that at the end of the 4th ring, the Tesla that had been with the drivers would have been fake. However, when asked more about it later on, he had already forgotten what he was going to do after, leaving it a mystery. ASARP Kyle planned to have Battle Spec. I planned to have Battle Spec as my final card for ASARP, however, I completely forgot about it, and, yeah.
High Octane David is Operation Water Run Matthew. David Pliskin from High Octane and Matthew Powell from Operation Water Run share the same faceplate, which is a poorly done MS Paint redraw of Snake from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Although MR2 did this because he was lazy, some have said that Operation Water Run Mad is the same person as High Octane David.
MR2 and Astra. Okay, so I actually missed this one in the VC it happened in, but reportedly MR2, in relation to Cyrus's younger sister Astra Washington, Accel and Silver's wrote her last winter, said under his breath in the VC, Astra, what the fuck? And it got really out of hand after that, with MR2 claiming he said something entirely different but was misinterpreted about hating Astra, ironically enough. Naturally, this was a controversial topic because the character Astra was like 15 or 16, I don't know, 13? I really do not know. Their age was really inconsistent throughout PRP. So it's a bit more than a bro moment for MR2 to be saying that. This was actually addressed in the 2nd edition of Task News, to which MR2 had to say, no, that is fake news. Which was edited by me tongue-in-cheek to say good. That is good news. All jokes aside, it is widely believed that MR2 was joking when he made that statement, but in response to Shattered Horizons Astro's bio being posted, a different version of the same character, I do believe he made a remark about them being legal now. take that as you will.
Texas in Shattered Horizons. On a session of Shattered Horizons on July 9, 2020, Adam Carter rolled a 197 on a loot box. Out of 100. Now, the fact that he's already gotten an infinite amount of revive tokens from that before, more on that later, implies that this could lead to something whack happening. Turns out that SRBS himself showed up and gave the entire group some general fortunes. As for Adam, that meant he was given access to 2 of his guardians, which are pretty much SRBS's personal band of multiversal warriors and defenders, blah blah blah. One of them was a woman named Artemel Lanio, an olive-haired creationist and natural strategist. The other one was Texas from IO8, but please note that they are depicted as human due to some sort of legislation that SRBS has, I think. He's a child at stake. Like, she doesn't even represent Texas, she's just there. That's like naming my child Oklahoma while giving them traits from YO. Wait, that would work. 21B can self-destruct at any moment. On March 23rd, 2020, BZ mentioned that if 21B's body cannot sustain himself, he'll just blow up and die, creating a mile-wide explosion by letting out all the energy contained within him. Just like me in 2017.
Arcurus stole SRBS multiple times. Whilst SRBS is officially the alternative account of Silhouette, Arcurus actually not only has remote access to it at any time due to knowing its passwords, but regularly uses it as an outlet to lurk within TASCforce servers under the radar. However, on multiple occasions she has used this ability to forcefully take over the account and quote-unquote rebrand it in whatever image she sees fit, as opposed to its Flareon status quo. This has occurred on multiple occasions with multiple intentions, including an extended period of time from February 2018 to May 2018, throughout half of July 2018, on several short occasions during February 2019, from April 2019 to June 2019, although this instance was specifically planned with Silhouette and tied into an RP's plot, as well as from April 2020 to June 2020. It was also speculated at some point that the initial theft of SRBS back during February 2019 was orchestrated by Silhouette and Arc was used as a scapegoat, but those rumors are unsubstantiated and I can't even remember where I heard them from, so you might want to disregard them.
Taki was a silencer's driver in Aftermath. In Aftermath 2, it was revealed in the Mountain Realm that Taki-eyed was a part of the silencers after he crashed his Metalloid. He had previously won the Hive Realm and the River Realm in the RP. He also had a silencers synchro with silencers 1-1.
NH Adam had the Infinity Gauntlet once. In Burning Horizon, Adam Carter rolled a 38 out of a 20 for a loot box, and originally had Thanos himself give him a second Infinity Gauntlet with all 6 stones. After Adam snapped a rocket grunt though, it quickly got retconned and the loot box reward was replaced with an infinite amount of revive.
Oh, I know this one. Specifically got about 123 Septentillion, 896 Tridentillion, 719 Quintridentillion, 847 Quattortridentillion, 128 Tridentillion, 97 Duo Tridentillion, 418 Untridentillion, 936 Tridentillion, 487 Novum-Vigitillion, 916 Octo-Vigitillion, 589 Septenvigitillion, 172 Sexvigitillion, 648 Quintridentillion, 976 Quattorvigitillion, 128 Trivigitillion, 973 Duo-Vigitillion, 875 Unvigitillion, 612 Vigitillion, 903 Novum-Vigitillion, 871 Octodecillion, 907 Decillion, 567 Sextillion, 180 Quindecillion, 465 Quattordecillion, 780 Tridecillion, 162 Duodecillion, 389 Undecillion, 170 Decillion, 5 Nonillion, 612 Octillion, 98 Septillion, 347 Sextillion, 190 Quintillion, 856 Quadrillion, 128 trillion, 937 billion, 689 million, 12,738 revive tokens from the loot box.
Jesus Christ.
I love that number.
The Safari Zone killed the original Pokemon RP. During Accel's original Pokemon RP back in 2017, he decided to include a wide variety of Pokemon within the Kanto region in an attempt to give the participants a wider variety of team diversity. However, when the server reached the Safari Zone in November, he included the entire roster from both the Kanto and Johto Safari Zones, which was at least 300 Pokemon in total. This resulted in a massive boycott on the server that was headed by Concord, Trub, Silhouette, and Hotshot. They argued that the fact that you could walk out of the Safari Zone was outright broken, and complained about the massive amount of pings that came from the Encounters channel as it was updated to include a large variety of Pokemon. However, when Accel attempted to compromise and cut the roster down to those found only in the Kanto Safari Zone, the protests continued, either due to the fact that the protesters would have to have given up the Pokemon they had already caught, or because they didn't care about the server anymore and solely wanted to ruin Accel's day. Ad hoc. During Hyoctane's reign in the community during late 2018, MR2 had set up a small Ace Combat RP that was based off of Concord's successful Ace Combat RP from 2 months prior. However, MR2's hosting skills at the time and its lack of sessions due to Hyoctane being a higher priority, Concord, Mr. Copy Ninja, and Katana all thought that Hyoctane was ruining MR2's RP, basically calling it the Fortnite of the community. This resulted in them creating Ad Hoc, which stood for Anti-Demonic Hyoctane Coalition. It consisted of Khan, Copy, Katana, and 2 random people who were thought to be from Khan's other online friend groups. Their plan was to find Accel's address and P-bomb him. They also planned on doing the same to Silhouette and Mercs. They also wanted to sabotage Hyoctane as the cherry on top. MR2 was sent an invite to the Ad Hoc server, but he instead told Accel about it, which ended up thwarting Khan's plans. Hyoctane ended up finishing after all, and Khan would later apologize nearly a full year later. Saren is the name of NH Silhouette's digital avatar. In New Horizons, Silhouette Kidomaya had a digital quote-unquote spirit form named Saren. It was essentially a mobile hologram which would allow Silhouette to be in 2 places at once. However, this ability was later forgotten about after New Horizon. Nowadays, the name Saren is associated with the sabotaged protocol SRBS attempted to use to reactivate the Guardians, explained prior in the Second Candonia War. This also led to the SRBS account being rebranded as Saren for the majority of Fantasy. This was also poked fun at in this Fantasy server, because while Fantasy Saren is like this edgy, corrupted version of SRBS that wears all black, the Saren that's associated with NH Silhouette is yeah. Both are kinda cringe, if you ask me. Yeah. HW20 Hamster Invasion. Conan MR2's Highway 35 RP was not really seen as a very good RP by Accel and Trub, as on July 21st, 2018, after Hotshot said that 2 Kia Steamers were arriving at Tesla's Cube, Trub came in and started posting the hamsters from the Kia commercials in the RP chat, which ended up causing a massive mess on the server. The server never continued on after that, resulting in a pretty embarrassing ending to an RP. USRC was made to compete with a public server. During April of 2018, Hotshot told the community about this public RP he was in. It was essentially a street racing RP that took place in Japan, and it had very heavy Initial D influences in it. Accel thought he could do it better, so he created USRC, and even managed to get a few people from the public RP.
Spiritual Razor. Spiritual Razor, otherwise known as Spirit for short, was one of the first members of the community back in 2017. he was available for NCRP, winning the Chrome Realm. However, when it came to ZXRP, he barely existed, which caused somebody to halt the XRP just because Spirit wasn't there. Apologies. He ended up vanishing from the community entirely. Nowadays, he seems to be active on Discord, but we have rarely contacted him past the XRP. Gearheads were an infinite loop. The Gearheads were originally set to appear in the second season of Accel's Infinite Loop RP, with Vading and Silhouette making characters for it. However, the RP died before it could reach Season 2. All that was left was a few breadcrumbs, such as the Aston character, which was actually a codename for Silhouette's Gearhead character. The rest of the Gearheads were also meant to have names, such as Vading Hamlet being labeled as the Mechanic and Alice Carter being labeled as Helix, a reference to her original appearance. Dorg used to be an admin. Dorg had admin for a time until January 1st of this year, where MR2 gave himself every single role in the server like the crackhead anyways, there was presumably a VC going on during that date where I brought up the fact that Dorg had admin, and then Dorg's admin powers were promptly removed by Accel.
Celadon, Del, and Umbra appeared in NH. Dimension hopping isn't an unfamiliar topic within the task force, tracing back to the second Pokemon RP we've done, hosted by Trub. But did you know that the versions of Del and Umbra that appeared during New Horizon were not from that timeline, but rather directly jumped from the New Horizon timeline in order to enact a sort of revenge across dimensions? While this was hinted at by the fact that Umbra originally confused Silhouette for Del, it was officially confirmed during Burning Horizon, when that universe's version of Dalto Varco first officially appeared at the Battle Tree in Alola. Accel's Brazilian Army. Back on my main YouTube account, I had about 1,000 subscribers, a majority of which were Brazilian due to the Acceleracers community being rather Brazilian populous. Back in 2017, I used to unironically use my fans as a bargaining chip to get people to listen to me, but now it's really just an inside joke that I'm slowly recruiting the entirety of Brazil to my side to use the world-conquering army, most likely propagated by Mercs, who was a Brazilian, almost being my apprentice from 2018 to 2019.
Infinite Loop was originally USRC remastered. Before Infinite Loop started, the server was originally for a USRC remaster because Accel wanted to do it. However, he thought it'd be too boring and that an Infinite Loop RP would be a better idea. USRC would eventually get a remaster with USRC Supercharged by MR2. It plans on starting in September.
Silhouette designed Zuki Carter. Despite Zuki being the daughter of Accel and Vernier's characters, neither of them even came up with the concept of a child until Silhouette created a basic sketch in September of 2019 depicting one. The character was originally named Itsuki, based on a Silhouette slamming his fingers across the keyboard. He does that with a lot of his names, before being shortened to the more concise Zuki. The design went through a myriad of concepts as well, starting with a basic face claim, before being finalized for the Battle Force 5 server in summer of 2020.
BF5 Elliot's surname was originally Callistus. During the planning of BF5 Elliot, me and Accel came up with the surname Callistus after taking Callisto and messing around with the letters. However, after the VC I changed it to a spotted to keep with the naming convention that the ACRC characters had. Callistus. I like that name.
Silhouette Kitamai is why New Horizon Adam got sent to Fantasy. The main premise of Silhouette's Fantasy RP involved a somewhat cliched plot with the Horizon versus variants of Adam Carter and Silhouette Kitamaya being dimensionally displaced to a fantasy world by SRBS and Yorlum due to the fact that Adam broke interdimensional laws with his loot boxes, with Silhouette only being there to make sure that Adam didn't die. However, in Burning Horizon, it was eventually revealed that Silhouette was more so being banished to Fantasy rather than Adam, and that Adam being sent with him was an excuse to revive him after Arceus had shut off his access to revive tokens. Guess SRBS picks favorites. The reason behind this is that the Horizon vs. Silhouette Kitamaya is a universal anomaly, a black hole of power so to speak. Despite keeping this discreet for the first half of New Horizon, the moment he started using magic after a temporary bout of amnesia screwed him over, SRBS had been attempting to eliminate or isolate his anomalous presence ever since in an attempt to restore balance to his universe, since such an excess amount of power and potential disrupts his ability to, be a god. Isolating him in Fantasy and using Adam as a scapegoat, well, that was the perfect opportunity. At least it was until they both made their way back to the Horizonverse in a few months. Hoenn Crisis, do not research. Wait, why do I have to explain this one even? Doesn't it say in bright red letters, do not research? Nothing to see here, move along. In short, there were two variants of the Hoenn Crisis, one in Stellar Dawn and one in New Horizon. Both involved the same incarnation of Umbra mentioned prior in Del and Umbra appeared in New Horizon, and were typically denoted by the color purple being the worst thing that could enter your vision. I won't elaborate on that part. By Crisis, I do mean NRP Apocalypse localized to the Hoenn region. That's all. Unlike the July 29, 1995 build, there is concrete evidence that this happened, but you'll have to ask around to find it.
Shay's name was misspelled for half of OWR. For half of OWR, Shay got his character's name wrong, as the character Shay is Mongolian, and prior to the 2000s, Mongolians didn't have last names. Instead, they had the first name of their father as their last name, which goes before the actual name. It's kind of confusing. The person Shay didn't realize this until later on, where they updated the character's bio to fix this mistake.
Arcturus is Vernier. Quite self-explanatory. However, until the release of the Iceberg image, very few people even knew this. Specific people being Silhouette, of course, myself, Mercs, and DragonZX. As for the people who did find out, usually it was because Silhouette and I, mostly myself, slipped up, rather than actually finding out on their own. But yes, Vernier was an alternative account that Arcturus used from July 2019 to January of 2020, in an attempt to integrate with the TASCforce with a clean slate of reputation. Ironically enough, she quickly became one of the most well-regarded members in the community, being commended on extreme dedication to RPs, general perfectionism, as well as many other merits and praises. However, Vernier did eventually drop off the face of the earth, before the surfacing of the Iceberg image publicly revealed her status as an alternative account for Arcturus. As for the implications that regard my characters getting in a relationship with one of Arcturus's, let's not get into that. Fantasy Akuma is NH Shuvi. Alright, bear with me, this one is kind of hard to explain. So, in the first act of Fantasy, this character named Akuma showed up at the top of an abandoned military outpost tower, right? They pretty much looked exactly like the splitting limb of an older Shuvi, including the flat chest, but nothing else matched up, so we abandoned the idea afterwards. More specifically, the fact that she was an amnesiac, and what she did remember didn't match up with Shuvi, the corruption powers that Akuma exhibited, as well as the fact that Shuvi actually showed up from Act 2 and 3 onwards. However, in a subversion of expectations, during Burning Horizon it was revealed that after nearly dying, Shuvi used a very Doctor Who-like regeneration technique to, I guess, end up as Akuma, before teleporting away and back through time to Act 1 to appear, while also removing her cortex mid-generation in order to make it seem like she actually died. As for the Shuvi that actually appeared during Act 3 and 4, I'm pretty sure it's a clone, that or Silhouette Veduono acting as Shuvi, which is an AU Guardian, you wouldn't know unless you know. But I can't say for certain. The grammar on that part was written by someone who stayed up past 2 a.m. And by past 2 a.m., I mean until 6 a.m.
Les. Les was an obscure Vaporeon evolution bot that popped up during early 2019 in High Octane. They were known for saying, "Why am I even here?" in the High Octane general chat. It's said that Silhouette or Arcturus controlled the bot. Les stands for Lua Encoded System. However, it is unknown what RPs it was used for. Hobart's rations are human entrails. On April 18, 2020, in Self-Indulgence General Chat, Silhouette revealed that AU Hobart from the RP used human entrails as rations. It's a reference to the "we'll mix together a smoothie" of their entrails line from the K-Fat song Hobart's Theme.
Sobart in Kyle's Con reveal. On February 8th, 2020, a King of the Task Direct was released, and in it revealed Kyle Jackson. At 7 minutes and 54 seconds into the direct, during Kyle's reveal, you can see a delibird next to a blender, and on that blender was a piece of paper that read out Sobart. Sobart is a reference to a randomizer I did where I named a Rayquaza Sobart. You couldn't see the piece of paper, however, because it was too damn blurry. I mean, too blurry. It was too blurry. Dead Giuseppe hallucination. On June 29th, 2019, in the Infinite Loop server, David had a fever dream where a skeleton of Giuseppe tried talking David out of his alcohol addiction. Can't forget to mention David cutting the USSR flag, and a younger, not drunk version of David also trying to talk him out of his alcohol addiction, and the Snake Eater playing in the background while David screams liquid! Test RP was going to be revived. After the amnesty period, whatever that is, the task force had a lot of people from Test RP who weren't in the server prior or were banned joined back. Since we had the full roster again, and Accel had the idea to finish Test RP, which had previously died in the Ruins realm, one realm before completion. However, due to Trump creating Test RP 3 and 3, they couldn't find time for the concept, and it eventually fell through. Stupid swamp realm. Vernier died, let's go!
No, let's not fucking go!
No, how will I donate to her Twitch.tv now?
Wait, what?
What?
Vernier was supposed to die in Fog Realm. During the epilogue of ACRC's Highway 35 RP, specifically the Fog Realm, Vernier began to express her grievances with the dice system, specifically the flaws within it. This crescendoed in an event where after Cyberspeeder, Vernier's vehicle was hit by a slam ram and thrown into a flaming wreck. The vehicle would proceed to explode after Vernier exited it, throwing a piece of metal directly into her back and sending her falling off the track. Her survivability of this event was debatable, but the fact that Vernier then described her character as got a 1 on evasion rate and probably died because the dice had finally caught up with her was naturally very concerning. This decision was eventually retconned after a long decision, mainly involving Accel, the DM, and Vernier, whose involvement is self-explanatory, leading to Vernier being rescued by the Silencers sometime off-screen.
Shinky tried to merge his RP group with Task. Shinky Luvania, a now banned member of the Task Force, is the owner of his own RP community named Ribbon of Ink. Shinky basically wanted the Task Force assimilated into part of his community. It was made abundantly clear by how Buddy Buddy attempted to get with the hosts, while at the same time constantly bribing and blackmailing them in order to play into his own hand of intentions, especially Accel. This behavior led to the downfall of the King of the Task project when Shinky suddenly quote-unquote lost motivation for it and attempted to insist that he'd rather draw within a Sun style, forcing $15 of unfinished commissions out of Accel and Trub's hands. Other behaviors that supported this included how much he hyped up all of his RPs, specifically with calling his 5-session Alter and Counter RP, which was basically just a Metal Gear knockoff without wanting him to admit it, a 9 out of 10 masterpiece, as well as converting his Alter Characteristics server to the previously named Ribbon of Ink hub server, in an attempt to seem like he melded into the task force. In addition, he seemed to grow a spontaneous attachment and almost obsession to some task force characters, specifically Adam Carter and Dalto Varco, who both happen to be played by hosts. In general, his underhanded tactics and behavior led to him to finally being banished in the spring, and it's highly likely that he had dark intentions if nobody interrupted his plan.
Dragon is MR2. Dragon is MR2 is a conspiracy theory, because the Dragon and MR2 joined VCs almost at the same time on occasion. They apparently sounded like at times, and the Task Force wiki page for Mr. Offline, MR2's ult, had a picture of Kyle on it after being vandalized by Frost Former. Me, of course. I have a theory that MR2 is just a clone of me, making me MR1, but that would mean MR2 is me. Jokes aside, who would want to act like they're someone else, am I right? That's just stupid.
Jet was shot by a serum dart. During December of 2017, Jet, a character from Trub, was shot by a serum dart. Okay, I won't lie, I don't know much about this one, because it was from Stellardon, and I wasn't in that. From what I know though, Jet had previously become an antagonist with the intent of conquering the world with the use of Kanto's 3 legendary bird Pokemon, as well as Lugia, the Johto legendary Pokemon which controlled them all. The group attempted to thwart this by confronting him in Mount Silver and shooting him with a pistol loaded with a quote-unquote serum dart which they had gotten from Umbra. I think. Why would anyone trust Umbra? I don't know. But the thing scrambled his genomes with Eevee DNA or something. It was real whack, and editors don't want me saying the G word. Steladon was whack. Apparently he fell off the mountain afterwards. Jet didn't really appear that much after this, but he did survive. I think it was only once, and the effects of that thing didn't really go away.
Nathan Vista wasn't supposed to die in Fantasy. So, we're talking about Fantasy again, and despite how it's in the Abyss, it's actually somewhat well known by the people who are involved in it. So, at the end of Act 2 of Fantasy, the two main factions, the Outcasts and the Heroes of Vesperia, with the heroes being the antagonists ironically enough, sort of met up at a mountain range and duked it out. To say the battle was hard fought is an understatement, both sets of role players were giving it their all. However, while one of the heroes, Nathan Vista, was in a moment of needing to focus, Jonah Yengu's character, Rana, also out with the Heroes of Vesperia, proceeds to perform a rage spell buff is an arguable term, on Nathan, which pretty much caused him to go berserk and lose composure, letting the outcasts kill him off. This was definitely not the intended result, because according to Silhouette, and as evidenced by his extensive reaction and the fact that he claimed to need to rewrite the entire script for the roleplay due to the fact that Nathan was killed off, this led to enough content being unused in Fantasy to warrant an entire Splinter timeline which diverged into an AU in general, which, well, it was fortunate for me because Adam was supposed to use up all of his reincarnations in the original script, which meant dying 11 different times. I guess this really shows how important Nathan was to the plot. Elias was meant to be a guardian. Speaking of cut content in Fantasy, here's something that wasn't exactly planned per se, but I did want to include in lore as a meme of sorts. Elias Gutierrez is a self-insert character from the Accelerators fan comic Full Acceleration, notorious for its poor photo editing, improper English, and of course, the fan dubs produced as a joke for it, which were in production during Fantasy. This led to the creation of a joke slide for Elias Gutierrez that explains how he was meant to be Saren's ultimate weapon, an experiment which was ultimately abandoned when Saren's molecules began to melt away by simply gazing upon Elias. SRBS forbid that he actually says, "Hello!" Ironically enough, I've talked to Silhouette recently, and he says that the endeavor to recruit Elias as a guardian is actually canon to Horizonverse lore. Guess that shows how important he is, right? Okay, I'm joking.
Lamar won the Super Bowl. Lamar winning the Super Bowl after the events of ASAR planned on being revealed in the ASAR epilogue. However, due to Accel's BF5 RP starting sooner than expected, the epilogue was scrapped, although it still remains canon in the ACRC.
Cyrus Washington cheated. It's a well-known fact by anyone who has merely taken a glance at any roleplay in Accel's car race continuity that Silhouette's character, Cyrus Washington, was the winner of the world race and got $5 million to boot. However, it's much lesser known that he used underhanded tactics and, dare I say, cheated in order to get this position. Somewhat ironic considering his distaste for ZW6's tactics. Out of character, a quote-unquote stored 17 out of 20 roll was used during the race in order to prevent Cyrus's backdraft vehicle from wiping out completely. In character, it stated, and I quote, for his Accelerator's bio, during the world race, he had modified backdraft communications and control devices to allow his sister Astra to take control in moments he lost focus. This was specifically used during the end of the world race during the showdown with the Street Breed. This implies that the external Those Who Don't Exist software which Cyrus installed in the backdraft was the equivalent of a Game Shark for his vehicle. But hey, at least someone like Bugo didn't win. Mallory is actually evil. So, okay, we're getting back into the conspiracy theory zone. As one of the final events in Burning Horizon before it was rebranded as Shattered Horizons, the demigod Mallory, twin of Yorlum, actually a clone, long story, was sabotaged by a rogue guardian named Axton, drained of their magical signature and all of their strength using some rune, and was replaced with a duplicate for 8 months. As the event was ongoing, people such as Mercs and myself were going crazy in chat trying to make heads or tails of what's going on. Either Axton had gone rogue from SRBS's allegiance, or Mallory had get this, been evil the entire time despite the God twins being a shining beacon of purity. And because of one line when Mallory appeared for stating, "Don't trust that other Urlum, she isn't who she says," from a clone NPC, some people, possibly including myself, assumed that Axton was innocent. Of course, in hindsight, it's obvious that wasn't the case, but that theory was pretty fun for the 30 minutes it lasted.
April Fool's MMFC deletion. On April 1st, 2018, in Monkey Man Fan Club, Accel hid the roleplay channel so that only admins could see it, and replaced it with a duplicate roleplay channel with nothing in it, and played it off as if he accidentally deleted the channel. Kind of a dumb joke if you ask me. Like me being MR2 or something.
Silhouette planned to leave in February. Alright, if the task force ever had a darkest hour, this was it. It all started when I was weaseled into unbanning a real-life friend of mine of the task force, Jans. He was a rather controversial member for a multitude of reasons, more of a shitposter than a role-player, and prone to anger over things such as the Minecraft font being changed to something sleeker. I'm not joking on that one. In addition, that past January had been rather tense for Silhouette due to a multitude of other reasons, including admin tension. So once Jans joined, he effectively said, "Fuck it, I'm done," left the server, and we were all effectively prepared to watch the task force sunset. As a matter of fact, Sil said outright during January that he'd leave if Jan rejoined, a detail I supposedly forgot or something. I don't remember what happened that well, it was 7 months ago. Ironically enough, Jans left after realizing that he caused Sil to leave. The repercussions of this included me being banned from Burning Horizon as well. Again, for a good few days it seemed like Silhouette was gone for good. As a matter of fact, I had to go through some drastic measures myself in order to prove that I could learn from my mistakes. Arcurus may or may not have made me forced to play GFL in order to get back into Burning Horizon. Yeah, things could have gone way worse if I wasn't incredibly lucky. I'm very grateful that I'm still able to even be in Burning Horizon today.
The Task News Studio is a portal to the Task multiverse. This theory, of course, suggests that the Task News Studio is a portal to the Task multiverse. The evidence used to support this claim on Lamar's Trico appearing in Task News number 10, and it would explain how MR2 gets his information. Oh no. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta...
Ayano Kieko in High Octane. Towards the end of High Octane, there was a massive argument in the general chat. It calmed down, but Vin somehow reignited it even though he was grounded at the time. This resulted in Silhouette claiming that he would change every line of text so that he could be Ayano Kieko, who was a little girl. This would, thankfully, never happen. MR2 dies in Task News 13. At the start of Task News 13, MR2 drinks a bottle of Mountain Dew before looking at his Dr. Pepper shirt and screaming, "Oh shit." This was followed by a massive explosion with text reading, "MR2 died." But for some reason, another MR2 appears only 5 seconds later. This could mean that the MR2 in the beginning is actually the one from Self-Indulgence, and the one afterwards is the one that you're hearing right now. It could be stated that MR2 got blown up because the planet he was on exploded after he fought the AC/DC. And that the actual MR2, the one you're hearing right now, grabbed the burning script of Task News 13 through the portal. Every Adam Carter is personalized. Every Adam Carter being personalized is actually true, as every Adam Carter used by every participant in Self-Indulgence was made to their liking.
So, you've made it to the end of the video. While I'm writing the script, I don't exactly know how long it's going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised if you've been sitting here for longer than an hour. While making this, MR2, Dragon, and I realized how much the task force means to us, and how it's affected our lives. It's kind of crazy to me that I've been part of this community for 3 years straight, and I just want to thank everyone who made it possible. I'd also like to give some praise to the standouts of my RP career, the stepping stones, as well as my personal favorites and milestones. Tarp, for showing me the ropes and pushing me to make this a devotion rather than a hobby. Stellardon, arguably more so for the experience and not the RP itself, but nonetheless, for showing me that a character has so much more potential than just one-liners and plot devices. The entire Horizonverse, as well as its peripherals, for broadening my scope of almost every aspect of role-playing, as well as being enjoyable experiences at almost any point in time. Finally, the ACRC timeline, self-indulgently standing for Accel's car race continuity, for showing me that I can succeed, both in the short and long term. And, in general, I'd like to thank everyone who took the time out of their day to watch the in-depth explanation of this iceberg made entirely for fun. I'd also like to thank those involved in this video's creation. Firstly, Unoriginal MR2, for coming up with the idea of the iceberg itself and creating the image for it. Secondly, everyone who contributed trivia that made it onto the iceberg itself. I'd have only been able to add so much to it without you guys. Last but not least, I want to thank DragonZX for editing the majority of this video together. Me, him, and MR2 may have all collaborated to create it, but he was the one who did the majority of the hard work piecing this video together. I just added most of the images near the end, rendered it, and uploaded it to the TASCforce YouTube channel for a premiere. I suppose that I don't have anything else to say, and I'm up until sunrise right now to make sure I can complete this video, so on the behalf of all of this video's collaborators, I guess I'll have to cut things here. Thank you for everything.